So lastly, I want to touch on the Eligibility Center's response to COVID-19 and provide you with a link to our frequently asked questions. So this information is available on our COVID-19 response website via the Eligibility Center. So some frequently asked questions provided by our Vice President, Felicia Martin of the Eligibility Center. So there's just a few things that I want to touch on as the most important aspects to take away from this COVID-19 automatic waiver. The first thing that's most important to note is that this waiver is for students who were expected to graduate high school in 2020 who were impacted by this. And so they are the students that are eligible for the relief of this waiver. And what this relief allows for, and this would be for a Canadian student, so all of their coursework was in Canada for 9 through 12 or longer if you're from, or shorter if you're from Quebec, but all of their coursework was taken in Canada or internationally. Those students would need to provide 10 core course credits prior to the start of their 7th semester, which means in years 9, 10, and 11. So before the start of year 12, they would need to have completed any 10 core course credits, and their GPA in those 10 core course credits must be a 2.3 or higher for Division 1 and a 2.2 or higher for Division 2. So if you meet those two criteria as an expected 2020 graduate, then the SAT and the ACT test score requirement for this upcoming year is waived. So that means that they're due to the many test score cancellations that began in March and that we are seeing continue throughout the world, there is not a test score requirement to meet this waiver. And keep in mind, this is a waiver from the standard initial eligibility requirements, which I went over in this presentation as a response to COVID-19. A few other things that I did just want to note that are covered in this COVID-19 waiver, which will impact future classes. So just note for spring and summer 2020 graduates who are initially enrolling in fall 2020 or spring 2021, this is an opportunity for COVID-19 automatic waiver. That means that if you meet this waiver criteria, you would be fully eligible for your athletic scholarship to practice and to compete with your team at the NCAA school. So for Division 1 and 2 international student athletes, as I mentioned, these are the 10 core course credits and the 2.3 or 2.2 GPA, depending on division. And they are 10 core course units or credits in any of the core areas listed here. So those would be on your provincial core course list. And the test scores, again, are waived for students who are expected to graduate based on their year 9 start date in the spring or summer 2020. So if a student was expected to graduate in 2019, took a 5th year of high school, and did not graduate until 2020, but should have graduated in 2019, they would not be eligible for this waiver. They would go through the full academic requirements waiver. Also for students who are not graduating high school until 2021, this waiver is not available as well. So subsequent classes, and what that means is students graduating after 2020. What are the flexibility due to the COVID-19 impact on those future classes? So there are 2 things outlined in the FAQ that will apply to 2021, 2022, and 2023 graduates, and that is that the approach of pass-fail and distance e-learning courses, and those will apply to future students. So there were some schools that impacted by COVID-19 that for the spring semester or their final term of the 2020 school year, that all courses were graded on a pass-fail grade. So if you were in year 9 and semester 2 was impacted by COVID and your school said, we're not giving letter grades or numerical grades, we are only saying whether or not a student passed or failed, then what will happen is we will award a 2.3 grade towards all past courses. So that's giving the benefit of that lowest GPA threshold, because prior to this COVID-19, if you received a pass-fail grade, you were given a D, which was only worth 1.0 on the 4.0 scale. So we have bumped it up for students enrolled that were given pass-fails to a 2.3 if those grades were awarded in the spring-summer 2020 term. And that would have to be that all courses were graded on a pass-fail. So if you were given letter or numeric grades for 9 of your courses and 1 was given a pass-fail, this would not apply. It would be that the school approached all grades for that term as pass-fail. The second portion, distance e-learning, does not apply to Canada so much because of the fact that as long as the e-learning or distance learning program is approved by your province and appears on your provincial transcript, then we will use it for our purposes so long as the course code and the course title match what's on the approving core course list. So those are kind of the approaches that we have taken for subsequent classes, meaning 21 graduates, 22, 23 graduates, based on their enrollment in school.